Hello everyone, my name is John Bussard. I'm an HP Solution Center engineer for Ingram Micro. I help support servers, blade systems, storage, as well as networking technology solutions from HP. In this series of videos, we're exploring the HP StoreOnce line of deduplicated disk-based backup systems. These are a repository for your software, so something like HP's Data Protector, you could point to one of these appliances as your backup repository for your backup jobs. And it'll back them up in a deduplicated fashion. What I like to do in my videos is I like to show you a slide from a popular PowerPoint and explain to you what that means within the interface. And today I've chosen this slide, which talks about site-to-site based replication. So certainly we could perform replication between remote sites, so whatever data exists on your main appliance could be replicated to a secondary appliances, and those appliances could be different model numbers. They could be this year's as well as last year's technology, as long as their firmware is within a reasonable amount of distance. All right, we could also replicate between physical appliance and the virtual appliance. So StoreOnce has a VSA as well. The StoreOnce VSA, or virtual storage appliance, is a product that they make available. Don't worry if you don't know too much about this product. We're going to have a video coming up on that. But we could do replication between physical, virtual, between physical appliances, dissimilar appliances. Allows us to have flexible ways of performing our replication. So we would need to buy a license for the physical appliances, but just so you're aware, a StoreOnce VSA has the license already included. So with that being said, let's explore the interface. Here's the StoreOnce Management Console. Let me log in. Okay, with this system, I have a physical 2600 series, and then over here, you'll see I have the StoreOnce VSA, the virtual storage appliance. I'm going to go over to the physical appliance. I'm going to expand out my StoreOnce system. Certainly I could do a virtual tape library replication and a NAS replication. Today we're going to focus in on a NAS replication, but it's exactly the same between the two platforms, or two categories. I'm going to leave my authentication at none. I certainly could edit that and change that, but it'll make it simpler for this video. If you want to see more on the NAS capabilities, I certainly do have a video on that. So I'm going to go down to the share section, and then what I'm going to do is create a share. I'll select create, and it'll take a little bit to create. Okay, our share is online, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to take and highlight this path, and then I'm going to go over to a Windows 2012 server that I happen to have, and we're going to map a drive. Okay, we've mapped the drive. All right, it's this Z drive. Right, and now I point my backup software to this folder to start doing backups. I'm just going to go in and create a file just so we have something to look at. I wouldn't necessarily recommend using this appliance as a file share. It could be used, but it's not necessarily an intended use for this solution. It'd be slow. So we'll say this is our backup job, and this is our important information. Okay, now we want to set up the replication to replicate this to the secondary appliance. All right, so down here under replication, I could expand that out. If you look under here, you'll see that I do not have any partner appliances. And if I look at my secondary system, my Store Virtual VSA, and look under its replication, once again, you won't see any partner appliances. Also, if you'll notice over here, we don't have any shares created. So I'll go back to the physical appliance. I'm I'm going to go down to NAS mappings. We can see my one share created here, but you also get this nice little wizard down below. So I'm going to start the replication wizard. I get the welcome screen. I'm going to move forward. It's going to ask me for my target appliance. That'll be my IP address of my secondary system. So let's add that in. All right, the secondary appliance has been added. I'm going to click Next. Now, because there's no shares on the secondary site, it's going to ask me to create a share to perform this replication too. So we'll call it remote. And we'll create the new share. Gives us a notification that we're creating the share, and it's starting it up. If I look at my secondary appliance, and we'll refresh it here, we can see that a new share has been created and it's online. So let's move forward. Now it's going to give a mapping name for this replication setup. Click Next, and then we get a summary, and then I'm going to click Apply. We get a wizard complete message. I'll click OK on that, and as you can see, it's pending synchronization. Now if I look under replication, we can see under target appliances, I have this VSA listed. And if I go to this virtual version, or what we're replicating to, and select replication, look under StoreOnce appliances, we can see I have my physical appliance listed. Now at this point, if we look over here, look at the NAS mappings, you can see that we're pending synchronization. So it's right now it's trying to synchronize between the two sites, or it's going to synchronize between the two sites. It shouldn't take too long because we have very little bit of data. One thing to note: if we leave this set up the way it is, it's going to try to consume as much bandwidth as possible to perform the replication. So a lot of us have bought maybe not very large pipes for WAN connections, or we're using our WAN pipes for other reasons. We wouldn't necessarily want this appliance to take over that connection. There are ways to kind of limit its throughput or the amount of resources that it uses. If I go up to replication and then select local settings and then bandwidth limiting, you can see I have a variety of limiting factors that I could do. I could give an overall general limit. I could select a percentage if I wanted to, based on my WAN connection. Or if that wasn't enough, I could go all the way down here and I could limit the bandwidth at certain times of the day if I felt like it. Oops. And I could put a check mark in the box, then change that if I felt like it. I could also set blackout windows as well if I felt like it. So when we don't want to even perform replication in our environment, or halt all replications. Again, I just click Edit and then make the changes that I needed. Alright, so let's go back down to our NAS mappings. So it says our two sites are synchronized. Right, so our data has been replicated to the secondary site. So, what happened if the main site came down for one reason or another? And the way I'm going to go about doing that is what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to destroy this replication itself. So let's remove this. Right. Then I'll go over to the NAS itself. Go down to shares. And I'll delete that. So this data at the primary site is gone. Right? It's disappeared. But at the secondary site, I still have my share available. So what I'll do is I will highlight the path. And I'll go to my secondary system at my remote site. plug in the path, and we can see that I get access to my file again from the secondary system. Alright, so that's site-to-site replication with the HP StoreOnce line of products. I hope you found this video informative, and please stay tuned for future videos.